If you're a fan of the Tennessee Titans, the Install Live Show with Greg Cosell of NFL Films coming up Saturday, May the 20th at the Hutton Hotel. Get your tickets right now at 1045thezone.com to hear the best breakdown of Will Levis.
Really, really excited and thankful for the opportunity.
And the rest of the Titans draft class. Good morning. Welcome into 1045 The Zone. It's lovely to have you here with us. Hope you're staying dry today if you're in Nashville, or it's probably like this in most of Middle Tennessee. Either way, Lucas, Burt, myself, we're all here with you until 1, as I mentioned. If you want to talk about the Titans schedule, we have it in its entirety to discuss today. 615-737-1045 is how you do it. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will be here at 11:20. A little bit of a cameo, just enough, just a couple of finger guns from Coach Mack in the Titans primary schedule release video. Are we calling it the primary schedule release video, though?
I think so.
Well, we shouldn't, because it was the worst of the two, and honestly, I'm a little salty at you for using that one today with the show tweet.
It was the better of the two.
It's just completely inaccurate, and I'm going to tell you why you feel that way. I'm going to mansplain this schedule to you, Lucas Panzica.
They were both fantastic.
We're not doing it now.
It's like 2 Christmases. You can't be upset about 2 Christmases.
We're not doing it now. Noon. We'll argue about the schedule release video. By the way, Titans just put out their full list of undrafted rookie free agents that they've agreed to terms to. That just dropped in our inboxes right now, so I can give you guys a full list of that later on. Meanwhile, we have the schedule. There's a lot of things to discuss. There's all kinds of interesting stretches in there. I heard Ramon and Kalen them were talking about the idea of, could there be a quarterback change at a certain point in the schedule with how the first 6 weeks match up? Pretty interesting discussion. But the thing that I am getting peppered the most about when I walked into work today has nothing to do with the NFL schedule. You want to tell me why the two of you are so hell-bent on playing horse or rock band today more than you are talking about the football schedule? You two have been on my neck about this. I'm not doing it now.
Because it's Nashville's favorite game. It's...
That's a good job by Bird.
I was ready to do it with him. Like begrudgingly, just kind of not like full chested, but just kind of like horse or rock band, you know?
We can put it off. We can do it next week. Horse or rock band's
No, we
not
can't
like
do
a
it
fruit
next
cake.
week. Steeplechase is this weekend.
Well, okay. You don't like to play games? You don't like to play reindeer games out from around Christmas? You can't get down with a dreidel? It's got to be around December for you to spin one? You can do things not around their particular events. When's the Kentucky Derby?
So you're alleging to me or at least Lucas did this morning, that many people were bothering the both of you with messages about playing Horse or Rock Band. And I don't think that's true. I think you're doing the thing that you accuse me of doing, which is seeing one commenter in the YouTube chat that pisses me off and then just using that as a way to tee off on everybody that's pissing me off that day.
Well, yeah, if it benefits me, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Steven on YouTube says, yes, Horse or Rock Band. D-Good says, Horse or Rock Band, greater than anything Buck wants to talk about. The people are speaking.
You named two. I said, I pick one. You gave me two. That was your rebuttal. Okay. Maybe we'll play Horse or... No, not now.
Keep getting fired up. I keep getting
Do
my
a poll.
announcer
How about
voices.
we put it to a poll?
No, I don't want
Ooh.
to put it to a poll. We have an NFL schedule. I have 272 NFL games I can talk about. Instead, the two of you want to play Horse or
We're
Rock
going
Band.
to talk about the schedule. We have
What do you
3
wanna-
hours.
You want to predict like wins and losses?
I would rather
You
do
don't
something
mean
that I
that.
probably shouldn't say on FCC radio. I do not want to do record predictions today either, but I do think, is there not anything about the schedule that interests you more than Horse or Rock Band? Not a thing other
No,
than the videos?
The schedule is very interesting.
Okay.
I love the fact that there are multiple instances of back-to-back home games. The Titans got way more primetime games than you thought they would.
More than I bet the Colts or Texans fans thought they would too, which we'll get to a little later on. All right, we will give people what they want at some point today. I'm not doing Horse or Rock Band right now. But the thing is, like the Steeplechase event, last year we had tickets to give them. They're just playing to play the game today. There's no incentive for them.
That's correct.
That's the reason I don't want to play Horse or Rock Band, because it's just a useless exercise for you guys to play the game show music that makes me insane. I'm already on edge today because I turned the corner to walk into this studio at 9:57 and Bert jumped out at me like a troll coming out from under a bridge.
He did a jump scare.
I slipped a little bit too. I didn't even get the full effect.
Well,
of it.
that's why it didn't scare me, because I saw your leg. I saw a fleshy calf poking out.
Oh, you like to, it's just the paleness, I think, is what's affecting you. I hadn't got to get fully baked yet.
He did that to me.
Some would accuse you of quite the opposite.
You haven't gotten a light base yet?
Yeah, I haven't got the color around like
Still need to get a good foundation.
the inside of my arms.
He did that to me on Wednesday.
The jump scare?
I was just coming. Yeah, I went to the break room or something, and I'm coming around the corner to go back into the control room, and he just jumps out.
It's so funny though. Don't
got
you
me
love
Can
so-
you think of a worse person in this building? Maybe Dawn, because Dawn probably has a taser. A worse person at jump scare than me coming in here at 9:58 a.m. I told him if I spilled my coffee that I was almost late for, I would have, there would have been a swift kick to the groin while he jumped out in his squat stance with his hands up in the air.
little office prankster over here. Ever tell you about the time that he put packing tape? Like, I was in the production studio, and he put packing tape like on the door, outside the door of the production studio. So when I walked out of it, when I flung the door open and walked out, it was like in my face, like packing tape just sticking to my forehead and my mouth.
I did that to Slay one time too.
Except Lucas's forehead is like Slay's belly button.
It literally ran up
Yes.
to Slay's like chest. and he
It
just went,
just went into his stomach. He was like, "What the hell?"
Of course, this is how we start the schedule release day.
There's a video of that somewhere. We should tweet that out.
I have it. Yeah.
What, of Slay?
Slay walking into the packing tape.
What did he do? Did he swat you like a fly? What happened?
He said, "You got way too much time on
He's
your
like,
hands."
you just start calling us weird.
If Ron Slay is telling you have too much time on your hands, then you need to get a hobby at this point. I don't know what to do. I can't imagine what kind of hijinks the two of you are doing throughout the course of your day after I leave here. Because there's still several hours after the fact for you two to get in trouble and probably talk about things on the air that you shouldn't be doing in a place of business.
Like little gremlins running around the radio station,
honestly,
putting packing tape on doors.
You two are like something you don't feed after midnight.
You could find out what we do if you wouldn't sprint out after your show is over.
I don't sprint out. It's time for me to go home. When I take my first commercial break at 12:55, I pick up my bags and I leave this place. Okay? It's all right. You two would do the exact same
Robert
thing.
is like the office ghoul that just ropes me into his hijinks. I can't
so
help it.
you're claiming that you're blameless in this.
I can't help it.
Lucas, come help me steal this yogurt. Like we'll just steal a whole carton of yogurt.
You're not stealing any more moldy yogurt from the break room fridge.
I'm over it. I've moved on.
Good.
I've packed my lunch 3 days this week.
Robert
two?
Doss says, my wife has never heard Robert get sent to the shadows. She's in the car with me right now. Please send Bert to the shadows. You know what? I'm going to, because I want to talk about the schedule. Get your ass to the shadows right now.
I hope we're going to play Horse or Rock Band.
Maybe Horse or Rock Band later. So let's talk about the Titans schedule at this point and what we have ahead of them in the 2023 season. It's going to be interesting to see it play out because there's only one divisional game in the first 6 weeks. And then they don't play another divisional game until week 11 with the Jags, and that's on the road. That Jags on the road game also ends a stretch of 3 consecutive road games. Now, Lucas brought up earlier that they have back-to-back home games for the first time twice on this schedule. Or not for the first time, but they did not have that last year. There was just that one short week where they played the Texans on a Sunday, they had the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football, and those were the only consecutive home games at Nissan Stadium last year. So at this point, I think there's a lot of different ways that fans are going to look at this, and I guess the question that I have for you guys as the audience, 615-737-1045 is the number. Did you get what you wanted out of this? Because you got 2 primetime games. They are on Monday Night Football against the Dolphins in December. They got a Thursday Night Football game as well on this schedule against Pittsburgh. Both of those are on the road, so maybe not everything that you wanted, because maybe you would like a primetime game here in Nashville with that LED light system that they barely get to use because they don't play games at Nissan Stadium at night.
Not going to use it this year.
No.
Not once.
That's right. So did you get mostly what you wanted out of the schedule? I know people were kind of butthurt about the London game, about specifically the London opponent, right? If you were going to send a game abroad, don't make it a really, really good, really compelling rivalry that a lot of Titans fans here locally would have liked to attend that may not have the opportunity to go to London. I'm fired up. I don't know about you. See, this is the part where this is how I get back at Bert for all the things that he does to ruin the radio show on a regular basis. You and I get to talk about how much fun we're going to have in week 1 at New Orleans on the road.
Yeah, let's try not to get self-involved today.
I would like to.
I
would
care,
like to very
care
much.
more about what Titans fans think about this schedule.
I asked them. I'm waiting for them to tell me what they think about that.
Fair enough.
But in the absence, I asked first. I was polite. I afforded them the opportunity. We will await their phone calls, and they can tell us what they like and don't like about the schedule. But in the meantime, now is my opportunity to get self-involved. I am excited to go on Bourbon Street when we get down to New Orleans. I've never been to New Orleans before. It's going to be electric.
There are some fun road trips in here.
Well, and that's the thing, like, if you're going to, in terms of like entertainment, so let's look at this from an entertainment standpoint. At New Orleans, when we don't know what the Saints are going to be with Derek Carr, quarterback, right? I don't necessarily know what the schedule is going to look like or how the things are going to break down for the Saints throughout the course of the year. But I think that as a road atmosphere, what better time for a team with a lot of unknowns like the Saints to play that game. I also think the same of the Titans-Chargers, the home opener here at Nissan. I think that's a great opportunity. I think that's a great home opening game for Titans fans to attend. It's one of the best quarterbacks that you're going to face on your schedule. It's a team in the AFC that features or figures to be a factor in the postseason at some point. And then before you go on the road at Cleveland and you'll have Cincinnati, like the good games are over. I mean, I don't want to say over, but like the opponents and the matchups that I'm most interested in on their schedule, they're all pretty much done by the bye.
The 2 best quarterbacks that are coming to Nashville this season, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, have come and gone by week 4. In the Chargers week 2, the Bengals are week 4.
Saints, Chargers, Browns, Bengals, Colts, and Ravens all before the bye week. That first 6-week stretch is fascinating to me. That's the most difficult part of their schedule is the first half, and then they get the bye, which is why I think the early bye makes sense. Jael is giving us recommendations of where to stay in New Orleans. See, this is not us getting self-involved. People can do this. It's only Bert that can't participate because Bert doesn't get to go.
I hope you get sick. I hope when you go down there,
What do you mean? If I get sick, then you're going to have to work with some fill-in that you said you were going to complain about for an entire week while I go off in Europe after the London game.
No, well, he doesn't hope I get sick. He just hopes you get sick.
Lucas will be the fill-in.
Oh. But if both Lucas and I stay in Europe after the London trip, then you would have to deal with a fill-in that you're not necessarily excited about.
I plead the fifth.
Good talk. People are giving us 1 in 5 record prediction. I'm not doing record prediction radio today.
We've gotten all sorts of record predictions
Listen,
already.
yeah, I love you all. I love each and every one of you like you are a member of my family, which maybe I shouldn't tell you how often I don't like going to family functions. But the last thing that I'm going to do with you today is a record prediction. I refuse. You can't make me. The only thing that I'm more reticent to do today is horse or rock band because there's no reason to do it. Would have been a real good I'm not. It's like the damn Titans press conference music. I don't know where it is. I can't see it, but it's always there to derail me. It's not fair. So we're going to dive into the most interesting notes from the schedule on the opponents that the Titans are going to play and the significance of that. Your phone calls as well on what you like and don't like about this 2023 slate. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Happy to have you guys in today. Happy to have a schedule to talk about. So, undrafted rookie free agents, by the way, that the Titans have officially agreed to terms with. Lucas, do you have this list in your email? Do you get the transaction emails?
I do. 14 UDFAs that have agreed to terms.
So we know a lot of these names before we get back into the schedule stuff.
We talked about a couple of them.
Some interesting notes. We did talk about a handful of them, but you know who I don't notice on this list?
Kearis Jackson.
Yeah.
The Georgia wide receiver.
Did that fall through?
I don't know. It was reported because, those days after the draft, it's coming from all over. It's coming from agents, random outlets, people that know the player themselves.
Like the Draft Network dudes who have like 3,000 followers or something like that. They pop up at this time of year.
The players themselves who tweet stuff out, like Mo Hassan, who I also do not see on this list.
Ooh, that's tough.
But
he made a really big deal about that on social media.
Does that mean that this is the final list of undrafted free agents? 14 seems like an appropriate number.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that they won't bring other guys in for rookie camp this weekend, which I think they were all in the building today, and rookie camp starts. I'm sorry, all in the building yesterday. Rookie camp starts today and then open to the media tomorrow. So maybe guys like Mo Hassan will be in attendance, but not officially on this list. I'm not sure if there's any discrepancy there because, I don't remember them. What's the name of the Tennessee quarterback?
Kenneth George.
No, not the cornerback. The quarterback, the 27-year-old rookie quarterback that was here from Tennessee that had bounced around to a bunch of transfers all over the place. I'm blanking on his name. He wore number 12.
Former Tennessee quarterback?
Vols, yeah. He had been on the University of Tennessee's roster at some point, I think under Butch and Pruitt. It's like 2 years ago. Anyway.
That he was here as an undrafted free agent?
Yes. We talked about this. I remember you laughing out loud because he's literally, 27 is excessive, but he's like 20. He was 25 as a rookie, which apparently now is normal in the COVID situation. Brian Leonard says, please tell me they have a wide receiver in this list. Yeah, they've got Jacob Copeland from Maryland, Trayshawn Harrison, the wide receiver from Oregon State. Those are the two wide receivers. No tight ends. One running back, Chuck McClellan from Cincinnati, and a lot of defensive players, outside linebackers, ends, corners, safeties, and a defensive tackle from Troy, Shaquille Brown, are what comprise this list, and one kicker, Trey Wolf from Texas Tech.
Yeah, we talked about him. I think he's got a real shot here. It's not like he's trying to unseat an established kicker in this league. It's him and Caleb Shudak right now.
No, that's a totally open competition. There's nothing there that gives. I guess Shudak has physically been here, but it's make the kicks or miss the kicks. That's really what it is that comes down to in terms of what Mike Vrabel's final decision is going to be on the kicking situation.
And then Caleb Murphy, the pass rusher from Ferris State, who just had ridiculous numbers in college, record-setting numbers at Ferris State.
Yeah, we talked about him with Rhett Bryan, as a matter of fact, on Wednesday. So, looking at the Titans' schedule at this point, 8 total games against 7 playoff teams from last season. Now, I often tell you that the reason that I refuse to do record predictions is because I don't care about last year's results. Well, I do care about last year's results, but I don't care about applying last year's results to this coming season. There's too much turnover, roster-wise, coaching-wise, too many unpredictable things with each organization that I think that's just, it's just a waste of airtime. But it is notable because a lot of these playoff teams in the AFC, in particular, they figure to be playoff teams again in the AFC, in an AFC that's really, really convoluted. I think that's going to make this conference so much more fun because what was the thing that we thought we knew definitively about the divisions in the AFC after free agency and the draft last year? We thought the AFC West was going to be the biggest, baddest thing in sports, right? Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr is the tail end of that, but Derek Carr at his worst is still a top 16 quarterback? That's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And ascending player Justin Herbert, the AFC West looked unstoppable, right? And then, the Chargers and the Raiders both struggled at various points. The Chargers obviously made the playoffs, and the Broncos, the bottom completely fell out on a $250 million quarterback. So I don't know that even the playoff teams at this point from year to year are going to be as easy to predict because I mean, not just because Aaron Rodgers is here now, but I think that the AFC is going to be really, really hard to figure out at any given point. Like, I think we're basically going to get to late November before I feel like we're going to know above and beyond, outside of Patrick Mahomes, like who we really think is good in the AFC. Because the Bills were overwhelming Super Bowl favorites for a good part of the season. Even though they were clearly and obviously showing people that they had some flaws. And week 2, the results specifically against the Titans, they looked like the greatest thing in the world, and nobody was going to be able to stop the Buffalo Bills. And no, it just turned out that the Titans were a particularly bad football team at the time. And
well, week 1 as well. Like, week 1 colors opinions for fans on teams more than week 2, you would say, right? It's a first exposure, especially in a primetime setting when the Bills went to the defending Super Bowl champs. We didn't know the Rams were going to be as bad as they were last year and as injury-ridden as they were. And they took it to the Rams at SoFi Stadium in week 1 last year.
Right, and we didn't know that the Rams were a bad football team at that point.
And Gabriel Davis scored like 4 touchdowns and then didn't do anything the rest of the year.
Now, I will say, I think there has been an understanding from fans that week 1 is the weirdest results of any football season or of any point in the football season. Like, week 1 is the thing when we know the absolute least about these teams, when these teams are going to be at their healthiest. So we think we know about how that will factor into their future until, all manner of different things can happen at any given point. But like, would the Giants upsetting the Titans at home last year not been considered one of the more weird results from week 1? Now, the Giants ended up being a playoff team. We had no idea at the time. And the Giants, I think, didn't they start, what was it, like 4-0 or something like that? 5-0?
Yeah. It was a big storyline in week 1 because it was Brian Daboll's first game with the Giants because of the decision to go for 2 at the end of the game that ultimately won them the game, and Saquon Barkley having what ended up being, and he had a nice season, but it was the best performance of his season in week 1 when you weren't sure what you were going to get out of him going into 2022.
So, that's all that to say, 8 games against 7 playoff teams from last year. You got the 3 division champs from 2022, Cincinnati at home, Jacksonville, of course, and then you will visit Tampa Bay, though Tampa Bay is a division champ is now. People are going to look at it as a bit fraudulent with the change at quarterback. Jacksonville again on November the 19th. Well, I'm sorry, Jacksonville is their home finale. So they have Jacksonville on either the 6th or the 7th of January, and they'll play them for the first time on the road on November the 12th. It's the first time in a couple of years that the Titans have had a home finale at Nissan Stadium. They've been on the road for the last couple of years. Two consecutive at Houston, because you had Derrick Henry breaking the 2,000-yard mark in Houston in the COVID season.
And then Sam Sloman
for the division, the thick kicker, 2 C's. The knuckleball kick to and a game that was just totally ridiculous. It's just, go back and look at that game. It was utterly ridiculous the way the Titans won that division.
There were some of those games between Deshaun Watson's Texans and the Titans were insane.
So much fun. But I think it just, because it makes me think of that overtime game that they had to play where Kevin Byard knew the defense couldn't get a stop in 2020. You literally see him his body language just slump.
Whoever won the coin toss won that game.
When the Texans got the ball first. Anyway, so a home finale is a nice little carrot there for Titans fans who are not crazy about the idea of the London game being shipped abroad.
Saturday or Sunday, right? Same situation as last year when it got flexed into Saturday night because it was a win and in.
Yeah, the NFL does those things intentionally because to be able to make sure that they can maximize their opportunities with the teams that are still in contention for their division titles late in the year. National televised appearances, so that's 3, including London. You've got Baltimore on October the 15th on the NFL Network, primetime Thursday Night Football at Pittsburgh, and then a Monday Night Football trip to Miami on December the 11th with the ESPN Monday Night Football crew. I think in terms of like viewing experience, what are you giggling about?
No, I'm just smiling. This gets you excited, man. I mean, it feels more real than it does at any point. This is the first point in the offseason where
you wanted to do horse or rock band.
Leave me alone.
Now, what it...
it had to be done. But this is the point in the offseason where it feels most real that it is going to be upon us pretty soon.
You know what else feels real?
And it's going to be upon us pretty soon.
How much I hate you too right now.
And
It's not even Bert's fault. Bert just happens to be in the same room with you when you're doing this to me. And it drives me crazy.
it gets you excited for the chaos of football season.
It does get you the chaos of football season is the thing that makes this compelling, not the schedule. It's what's going to happen, what we think we know about the schedule now, and it's going to be completely different than the conversations we're having by the time these games actually take place. That, I think, is the most compelling part about the schedule, is how much I think I know, and then we actually get to the date, and I look back at what I thought on, May the 12th of 2022. I thought a lot differently about the Titans at a certain point than I did, by the time we got to November 17th, and then they won a game, and then they didn't win a game after that. It will be a couple of different things that I think benefit the Titans in all of this. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, and the idea of playing the divisional games earlier, and we'll hone in on the AFC South more specifically because I think there's a lot of good discussion to be had there about these teams and how often people are going to see them. But as you look at a couple of different notes that the Titans PR included on this, they are going to face 4 of the NFL's top 10 offenses from last season. Now, if I'm going to tell you that last season's results don't matter if you're trying to project what could go down this season, but I also give you some information about top offenses, you're going to look around and say, well, how applicable is that? Well, let me give you the teams and tell me if this doesn't make you feel any different. The Cincinnati Bengals are probably going to be a top 10 to 12 offense in football this year.
They're going to look very similar.
And this is all provided health. Of course, that's not a safe assumption, given that this sport is incredibly violent. But we know. Okay. Jacksonville, I don't know how to feel about the Jags. The Jags did a lot of work in this draft to kind of supplement what's on the roster already. And I guess it's safe to assume that Trevor Lawrence will continue to be an ascending player at this point. I don't dislike anything about the Jags offense. I was surprised to learn that they were a top 10 offense last year.
And there's a lot more to make you think that they would take a step forward this season than a step back, right? They bolstered the wide receiver core, improved depth through the draft, in year 2 under Doug Peterson.
So, Jags, Chargers, Dolphins, and Bengals. They also contend with 3 of the top 10 defenses from 2022, Baltimore, the Saints, and Tampa Bay. Now, defense, I think, is the more arbitrary side of things there because defense is even harder to sustain year over year. It's like offensive line play. There's so much physicality involved in those particular instances where there's just a greater breakdown of bodies at a much more rapid rate. But I guess we had a scheduled conversation, not a scheduled conversation, but we think about different ways to talk about stuff earlier this week, and we never got to a discussion about, okay, is the Titans' defense good enough at this point? We had heard from Roger McCreary a couple of weeks ago at the podium. He talked about some things that he went back and watched on tape, particularly from the bad games where he wasn't as comfortable in his role in the slot, or he thought that he had some particularly bad snaps in their nickel settings. All these different things about the Titans defense, who, for all the time we've spent talking about their putrid offense in 2022, this was the 32nd ranked passing defense in the sport. So, like, all the things that we were, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody, we were selling you guys about this overwhelming pass rush was going to be your ticket, right? It was going to be the thing that made you most special in 2022. And then Jeff gets a bum ankle in Kansas City 6 or 7 weeks in, and that all goes to hell because Danico Autry's body starts to break down. Bud Dupree isn't out there, and Harold's lost for the year.
It's a combination of that and teams weren't able to run the ball against the Titans, right?
That is true. There is a reason that they were as pass, or the teams continued to go to the pass against them, and that the counting stats would look more lopsided that way. They were a stout rushing defense, but still, like, what are teams going to live with in today's NFL? They're going to live with beating you through the air if they're not going to be able to run the ball. Mike McDaniel's going to look around and be like, all right, okay,
fine by me.
That's just fine.
I don't want to give it to Devin Achane anyway. Yeah,
that's a running-based offense, and he's just going to look around and be like, okay, I'll figure it out. is the Titans defense good enough to contend with the kind of offenses that we're talking about? Because I can't just assume that. I can't just assume that because we thought that 2021 was going to translate to 2022, and it didn't because things like injuries aren't predictable. I don't know that they're going to be the worst passing defense in the sport again in 2023, but I also don't know that everything that caused them to not have as good a pass rush as that we thought they would be able to sustain. I don't know if Danico Autry is going to be able to continue to produce at this high level. These are the questions that I'm posing, right, about the schedule and what lies. These are the questions that I don't think we've talked enough about because we've been so focused on wide receivers, offensive coordinators, new GM to distract you. Oh my God, there's a new quarterback again for the second straight year. Mentor gate, question mark. And all the while, you're looking around and be like, all right, but can you get a stop? Now we assume, because this is what they do and they have a lot of talent on that side of the football, certainly, that the defense should be the better unit. But I don't necessarily think that's just a safe assumption that everybody can make. Just as I'm not quite certain that making the assumption that the offensive line is going to be substantially better in 2023 than it was last year just because the faces and the names are different.
They do not have to go further west than Houston this year.
That matters.
Yeah, they were in L.A. last year, Seattle the year before that.
Well, further west, right? Because they would have to fly.
There've been a lot of trips to the West Coast recently.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess we have been in L.A. in particular quite a bit. Seattle last year. Seattle will come here this year.
Denver in 2020. I mean, they were in San Francisco, in recent years.
They've played the Broncos an awful lot in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, so that's a benefit. You don't have to go any further west. Obviously, you got to go pretty east to London, but no further west than Houston. And the TV network breakdown was interesting.
We'll get to that a little later on, I think, because people do care about which broadcasters are on the Titans games, for those of you who mute it and put on Titans radio, which, by the way, we love that you do. They're the best. Why wouldn't you? Lonzo Wright says on the Zone TV chat, Tim Kelly or Rock Band. So now it's not even Horse or Rock Band that people are arguing for. They want Tim Kelly or Rock Band. I'm not doing it today.
Also, people are tweeting at us. The Tennessee quarterback you were referencing earlier, were you trying to tell me that the Titans signed a Tennessee quarterback?
Yeah, wasn't it Quentin Dormady?
No, I think you are thinking of Jarrett Garantano, who is here with the Cardinals doing joint practices.
Go look up for me if Quentin Dormady didn't have a rookie minicamp stint with the Titans in the last couple of years. I'm pretty sure that's the name that wouldn't come to me earlier.
If so, that has been blocked from my memory.
Well, like I said, it's rookie minicamp. They literally just need somebody to throw a ball to other receivers other than the rookie quarterback that's on the roster.
Not from what I'm seeing, he went straight to the CFL.
All right, I'm going to find out who this mystery rookie or Vols quarterback that had a rookie. This is the worst thing for us to get hung up on today.
He got a tryout, Robert says.
Okay, so tryout players. Thank you, Bert.
Not the same.
Kevin in Hopkinsville is next.
Hey, good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm good.
Question. There's a report out from, I guess, who Ben Arthur is, saying that Malik Willis is likely going to be cut. Have you heard anything about that?
A report from Ben Arthur, you said, at Fox Sports?
Yes.
I mean, no, because nobody's going to get cut on May the 12th. But, if Ben is doing roster, is it a report or is it like a projection? Is Ben looking at the roster? Because I haven't seen specifically what you're talking about. I can look it up, Kevin, but I need a little more detail.
But it was on Outkick.com that they were reporting that Ben Arthur says that Malik Willis is likely to be cut. I don't know.
I mean, that would make the most sense. I think Malik Willis is likely to be cut. I'm not reporting it, but, doesn't that make the most sense?
Yeah. I just didn't know if maybe the Titans were considering bringing in another quarterback or not. But, okay. Thanks a lot.
I did not see Ben say anything like reporting that he is hearing Malik Willis is going to be cut. It was more talking about Malik Willis as the odd man out.
Yeah, I think.
Like Ben didn't come out going, breaking, Malik Willis, going to be cut per sources. No, that's not what he said.
Yeah, because nobody's getting cut. It's not like Malik isn't going to make it into
that wouldn't make any sense.
Voluntary stuff. No, I don't worry about cuts until we get to the roster cut thing, even though Malik Willis is obviously a name that people are going to keep an eye on with how convoluted the quarterback situation is. Okay, so
Yeah, it's a roster projection from Ben.
I see. Okay, so Bert has put this up on the. Ooh, this is nice that we can do this. According to Fox Sports, Ben Arthur, Willis, who was once considered a potential. Okay, that, by the way, is a misleading line. Willis, who was once considered a potential quarterback of the future for the Titans, who, may I ask, was considering Malik Willis a future potential quarterback for the Titans?
Everybody when they drafted him in the third round. Come on. How is that a stretch? Malik Willis, who was once considered a potential future quarterback.
For like 2 months in training camp? Stop.
When they drafted him in the third round.
Okay, we don't need
when
to
he
get
fell
hung up
all the
on
way. Yes, of course he was considered a potential future quarterback.
Is now deemed the odd man out with the presence of Ryan Tannehill and the recent addition of Will Levis to the roster. So there's nothing reporting in there. Ben's probably just saying, yeah, if they end up with, if they go into the season, Malik Willis probably the odd man out. Of course.
Strictly a roster projection, not a report.
Okay. So I'm glad we spent as much time on that as we did. SEC Stat of the Day is coming up next. Welcome back here on 104.5 The Zone. Buck Rising with you until 1 o'clock. The demands have changed from Horse a rock band, Taylor Swift a rock band, Tim Kelly a rock band, Bert. I think people just want you in their lives, and I've deprived them of that today. I've sent you to the shadows. I've sent you away, and I won't let you do your thing.
Talking to Bert?
Yeah.
He's not in here. He's foraging for pasta salad that got left out in the break room.
That's the nicest thing I've said to him all week. People wanted to talk to him.
That
and
was lovely.
I was going to give him a moment, and he's not even here. Why is the studio set up so I can't see him?
We like it that way. He is shoveling something into his mouth right outside the door. People in the Zone TV chat could probably see him
Can
through
they see
the
him?
through the window.
Can you? Good. I want people to see his shame.
What are you shoveling?
As he shovels pasta salad into his face out there. They can see you through the window.
Coming in here
I just
licking
said
your
something
fingers.
very, God, the licking of his fingers is something
how did I get caught for this? You want me to bring a saucy ass wing in here? And
He was trying to do something kind.
Because I went to you. I was trying to be nice. People were clamoring for Horse or Rock Band. And I said, you know what they need? They need more Bert in their lives. I've been mean to him today. I sent him away to the shadows. And I said, okay, Bert, give me what you got. And you were out in the hallway eating pasta salad because I can't bleeping see you.
Oh, you told on me for the pasta salad.
I didn't tell on you. They looked on the YouTube chat and they could see you and your
through the
grubby
little
little
window.
fingers eating through the window
shoveling pasta salad.
like an animal.
It was.
Like somebody who hasn't eaten all week.
I had to use a Chick-fil-A cup because there was no plates in there. We can play Horse or Rock Band.
No, now we can't.
What?
Because now we have to do the SEC stat of the day.
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Kelly and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
The SEC stat of the day today is a quick look at FanDuel Sportsbook and SEC win totals for 2023. Buck, who do you think is projected as the highest win total when you look at the over-unders in the SEC in 2023?
Georgia.
Georgia, yes. What do you think the number is?
Ooh.
Over-under what?
What?
I asked
10.5?
11.5.
Okay.
Alabama, 10.5. LSU and Tennessee, both at 9.5.
Really?
The over-under for both programs. Ole Miss right behind Tennessee at 7.5. A&M also 7.5.
Well, not
wins.
right behind. That's a pretty big drop
Right, yeah, 2 games back. So FanDuel Sportsbook, the over-under for Tennessee's win total in 2023, 9.5 wins. So the question, what do the Vols have to do? What has to happen for Tennessee to win 10 games in 2023, to go back-to-back with double-digit 10-win seasons for the first time in, I would have to look at it, but what has to be about 20 years?
Well, I mean, Milton has to work out. Like, that's it. And obviously health is the easy answer there, right? Because you could argue that the Vols would have been fine had Hendon Hooker, I mean, obviously the disaster with South Carolina, but like the Vols would have been fine had Hendon Hooker been healthy, and maybe he would have still won the Heisman or whatever, you know, all these different things about the University of Tennessee that you could have thought about. And they still won the bowl game at the end of the year and still had a very, very successful season. One of the most successful seasons that we've seen them have in quite some time. So I think the thing for me is everything unknown about Joe Milton and his ceiling, or maybe not even ceiling, like his floor within this offense. I need to see what, maybe I've seen the floor with Joe Milton already. I just need to have a general comfort level with what Joe Milton is and a trust level with what Joe Milton is for me to be able to trust them going over on that 9.5.
Yeah. Seeing a bit of a repeat of what we saw last season as far as Tennessee being firmly in the playoff conversation for the majority of the year, 11 wins, New Year's Six Bowl. Joe Milton would have to have a pretty special season.
Because, I mean, you could argue, like, if you're a Vols fan, you would say, I think if you're a certain segment of Vols fans, you would say, well, the defense, the secondary is atrocious. They have to be able to get stops. And, like, I don't disagree with you. You have to, at some point, Lincoln Riley, get a stop in a college football game. But it is not as important as what they are going to be doing on that side of the ball in the larger scale of college football competitiveness, right? Like, people are going to score points. Like, the whole reason that college football is able to manufacture points and yardage this way is because it's a lot easier to set up quarterbacks in a way to succeed in the college game. Defensive stops matter, turnovers matter, all these things. Pressure on the quarterback matters, but it is not as pivotal for them to be able to hold up on their end of things as it is for Joe Milton to be able to hold up his end of the bargain.
Yeah, defense should be better in 2023. Will be deeper in 2023, provided the health kind of stays afloat for Tennessee. But you're right. That doesn't matter if Joe Milton cannot show that he has progressed from what he was when he was initially named the starter in 2021. But when you look at win totals, you look at the schedule, and you look at two things. The non-conference slate and that rotational SEC West opponent, which in 2023, that will be the final time that you have that rotational opponent. Of course, they'll do away with divisions as Texas and Oklahoma make their way in. So Tennessee's non-conference slate consists of one Power 5 team. That's UVA right here at Nissan Stadium. Week 1, September 2nd, UVA. Tennessee should expect to blow out UVA in that game. Anything less than that, I think, would be a disappointment for Tennessee fans. And that rotational SEC West opponent is Texas A&M. So that will be fascinating. Texas A&M coming to Knoxville while the Titans are in London. So that'll be the Saturday before the Titans-London game against the Ravens. And what Texas A&M is in 2023, which no one can really seem to figure out, could be what does or doesn't push Tennessee over this 9.5 win mark. Because when you look at losable games on this schedule, the obvious ones are Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and you get Georgia at home. South Carolina, I guess you would have to look at that as a losable game given what happened last year, but you get them in Neyland Stadium. Tennessee will be expected to turn around and get that revenge game against South Carolina.
It's different for me with South Carolina. And listen, Spencer Rattler can say whatever he wants about how long it took him to get comfortable in their offense, right? But I do invite you guys, and I don't give them pub unless they've done something worthy of it. But Taylor and Will, Bussin' with the Boys, they did a really good interview with Spencer Rattler specifically about the way that he struggled. They'd been doing a campus like spring ball tour or whatever. They had a 20, 30-minute conversation with Spencer Rattler, and they had another podcast with Shane Beamer. But what I learned about Rattler and how much he was struggling with the operational side of things in South Carolina's offense doesn't mean that all the problems that he had, because there's still some flaws there. But this is a hugely talented player that showed how damaging he could be. And I think the Rattler element of this is what still puts South Carolina on the board for me as an imminently losable game.
Yeah, and then you're at Kentucky. Late in the season, October 28th, Devin Leary, the quarterback, transfer from NC State. That makes things interesting, but still going to be a game you're expected to win. So it boils down to those three: Alabama, Georgia, and what in the world is Texas A&M going to be when they come to Neyland Stadium on October 14th?
That's the SEC stat of the day. We've got phone calls on the Titans schedule, phone calls on the AFC South. We'll get to those here in just a second. We'll dive back in with that Titans schedule, and Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will join us coming up next.
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans' 2023 schedule is out, and the two-tone blue will open the season week 1 in New Orleans, with the home opener coming week 2 against the Chargers. The Titans' bye week falls on week 7 after the London game against Baltimore, and the schedule includes 2 primetime matchups, Thursday Night Football in Pittsburgh and Monday Night Football in Miami. NBA playoffs last night, the Celtics won in Philly 95-86, forcing Game 7 in the Eastern Conference semifinals as the Nuggets cruised to a 125-100 win over the Suns. They take the series and move on to the Western Conference Finals. In the NHL, Carolina moves on to the Eastern Conference Finals, a 3-2 overtime win over the Devils in Game 5, and the Dallas Stars took a 3-2 series lead over the Kraken with a 5-2 victory. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 off and rolling. Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone. We're lucky to have you here with us for the next 2 hours on this Friday. Hope your Friday is going well. 615-737-1045. That's how you jump in on the discussion. Titans schedule for 2023 officially out. All 9 home opponents, with one of those being in London, of course, and all 8 road opponents officially available for you guys to peruse. I know many of you are planning trips. Many of you are circling your favorite games. Many of you are doing win-loss predictions, all the fun things that you do on schedule release day. Going to get into some details with that and take a look at some of the best games that were announced yesterday. Some really, really compelling stuff in week 1, probably the thing that we should focus the most on with these schedules. And, of course, Coach Mack will be here in about 20 minutes. Get to your phone calls because a lot of you guys have been waiting patiently. How about Gino in Kentucky up next? Hey, Gino.
What's going on, Buck?
Not much.
Yes, sir. I was just calling. I really think we're the favorites to win the South. My reason being is even with all the injuries last year, everybody forgets about Josh Dobbs living out the Econo Lodge with one backpack, you know what I mean, knowing half our playbook, and we still took the Jacksonville Jaguars down to the wire, all the way to an incomplete pass was ruled a fumble on a scoop and score, or they don't score. Or our defense holds them like we was, and we win the fucking South.
Well, that just happened.
Gino!
Glad it wasn't me.
My goodness.
Not that he's bitter. Please tell me you got that.
I hit the button immediately. It's in God's hands now.
What do you mean it's in God's hands now?
It's in the radio God's hands. I don't know.
He ain't wrong.
I hit the button. I did my part.
I just love that anytime that happens, that the zone TV crowd still gets to hear it.
Yeah, they hear it.
I love that it's still uncensored on Facebook and YouTube for people.
Hopefully the radio audience didn't hear it.
Gino, you were doing so good. That is hilarious. But I love that. I obviously don't love that because it puts a tremendous amount of stress on Lucas to be able to make sure he dumps that so we don't lose our license as a radio format when somebody drops an F-bomb on the air. But I do love that he is still that passionate about that damn Jags game and that incomplete pass that was called a forced fumble and a touchdown that was recovered for the Jags, ultimately ending the division. I love that still on May the 12th, Gino in Kentucky is that pissed. Now, favorites in the AFC South, you are not. And I understand what you're saying about the Jags. Completely understand. Amar says the button worked. I didn't hear it on radio.
Let's go.
You can take a deep breath.
That's
You're
a
a
win.
hero. You're
That's
a hero,
win.
Lucas.
That's a win. We're all having a good Friday. Vibes are high. Now Lucas cautiously approaching the phone lines once again to see who next will drop an F-bomb on the air. Here's the thing about the Jags. okay? Jacksonville is going to be the favorites to win the AFC South, and they absolutely should be. They are the most complete team in the division. Is anybody back there going to argue with me about the Jags being the most complete team in the AFC South right now?
No, I'm not arguing.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
Because Gino's saying, with his chest that the Titans should be favored in the AFC South. And listen, it doesn't mean that they can't win the AFC South, but favored, no. Jags are the most well-rounded team in the division. They've got the most talented quarterback. He's not been the best quarterback. They still started 2-6. They still had the struggles that they did late in the season. He struggled mightily against the Titans. As Gino, before, the expletives, pointed out correctly.
The second time.
That's right.
Not the first.
No,
first time he had a career day in Nissan Stadium.
Right. Thank you for reminding me about that, because that was the game that Autry in particular missed, right? Jeff was out there but had a bum ankle.
Evan Ingram, huge game.
Right. They got dusted by the Jags here in Nashville.
And and Henry had almost 100 rush yards in the first quarter, but then
he had a fumble.
There
was turnovers late.
Yeah, Titans didn't touch the ball for it was that middle 8, right, that the Jags dominated.
Right. So the Jags and the Titans had injuries, of course, but the Jags in Jacksonville did still beat you, even if the officiating was poor, and it was. Okay, we can all agree that should have been an incomplete pass based on what we saw them make calls later on Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in the postseason. Those were clips that were very, very much brought back to light. Now, what would have happened if you got into the playoffs? Who knows? But still, you understand. Jacksonville has the most talented quarterback. I don't know that he's the best quarterback in the division. I still have a tremendous amount of trust in Ryan Tannehill being able to guide a team through an NFL season with greater consistency than I've seen from Trevor Lawrence. There is a larger sample size of Ryan Tannehill doing that, and I understand this is only, year 3 for Trevor? So Trevor may be that this year. We have no idea. But just based on the sample size that's available to us, there's a larger sample size of Ryan Tannehill playing the quarterback position as a professional at a higher level and more consistently than Trevor Lawrence.
What do the Jags get as far as primetime matchups?
The Jags, I will pull up their schedule if you will allow me a moment to do so.
I know they have one Monday night game against the Ravens late in the season.
So they have Thursday Night Football, Week 7, in New Orleans. They have Monday Night Football against Cincinnati in Week 13 at home. And like Bert said, Sunday Night Football at home against Baltimore, Week 15. So three, not including their 2 London games.
God. The 2 London games.
Yeah.
Oof. So, that, like I said, there's a difference between being favored and actually doing it. Were the Titans the odds-on favorite to win the division last year, or was it Indy?
I believe it was Indy
I think it was
going
the
in.
Colts going into the season. And, how that ends up playing out, they're talking about on SportsCenter right now, as a matter of fact. I'm watching RG3 break down the Titans' 3-man quarterback competition, and he's got Tannehill, Willis, and Levis all up there on the graphic with him. Of course, the discussion is being had about Ryan Tannehill holding the edge. Anyway, Bert has thrown the AFC South win probabilities up from last season up on the screen for me. The Colts were the division favorite heading into last year at -125, according to thelines.com. You had the Titans second at +170, Jags +700, and the Houston Texans at +3,000 to be able to win the division. So, Jags will be favored. Do we have early betting odds for the division this year? That I would be curious to know. If they can't possibly make the Colts or the Texans a favorite over Tennessee with all the unknowns at the quarterback position, I can't imagine that would be so, but I'd be curious to see how Vegas is viewing this.
How do you think it goes? Jags. So you're saying Jags, Titans, and then how do you think Colts and Texans are?
Probably just
ranked?
Like you said, Colts and Texans.
Colts and then Texans.
The Texans have the most unknown commodities on their roster. The most unknown quarterback in the division is Richardson, but I think that at this point, Indy's roster would still be considered better or something that Vegas would have a better grasp on. So here are the South odds for the division. It is, in fact, Jags, Titans, Colts, Texans. Jags minus 160. This is courtesy of Superbook Sports. Titans plus 375. Colts plus 550. Houston Texans plus 825. 615-737-1045 is how you hop on. Shane in Nashville is next. Hey, Shane.
Sunday Silence, horse or rock band?
All right, damn it, Lucas, do it. No, let's do one. I'll do one.
We're not prepared.
Oh, what do you mean you're not prepared?
We don't have it up yet.
What, the music is just playing in the background, haunting me in my dreams at this point. You don't have the rest of it prepared? All you got to do is say horse or rock band. That's it.
That's right. It's Nashville's favorite game. And the caller said Sunday Silence, Buck. Is Sunday Silence a horse or rock band?
I'm going to say it's a rock band.
You would be incorrect. Sunday Silence is a horse. Better luck next time.
Okay, is that a horse running in steeplechase?
I don't know. Ask
Probably
him.
not.
Okay, very good. See, I'll do it that way. I'll do one off horse or rock band.
You wouldn't do a 2-off?
No.
Hit it, Lucas.
No.
It's time to play Nashville's favorite game, horse or rock band. Buck, is One Man Memorial a horse or a rock band?
One Man Memorial?
One Man Memorial.
It's a horse.
That's correct. It is a horse.
1 for 1, baby. All right. We'll retire for the segment at 500. I'll do one or two horse or rock band. We can mix them in. That's fine. Because I'll get bored with schedule release talk. Oh, no. Stop it.
No.
Stop it. Why do you insist on making me angry every time? Oh, my God. All right. Coach Mack next. Love that music on a Friday. It means Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio is about to be with us on the show. As always, he's presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. They've been protecting Tennesseans for 75 years. Farm Bureau Health Plans has you covered. Now, I was told he asked specifically to speak with one Robert Walsh before he made his appearance this Friday. Was there a meeting of the minds? Was Mac trying to coach Bert up? It's a pretty uncoachable crew that we have around here. We'll find out ourselves. Mac, what were your words of wisdom to Robert Walsh?
Well, first of all, I'm not anywhere near a mental equal of Bert, so I will leave that alone. I mean, he is the chess master of everything. But last time I called in, I didn't even acknowledge him, and that's BS. And so I asked if he was in there, and he was, but he's eating a pimento cheese sandwich, so I didn't interrupt him because I know he needs to get his strength up. So anyway, that's what that was about.
No, Coach, sorry. It was not a pimento cheese sandwich.
I was about to say, he lied to you, Mac.
He put mac and cheese between bread. It was a mac and cheese sandwich.
We didn't have any plates, Coach. You said so many nice things about me. I don't want you to walk them back just because I'm eating a mac and cheese
He's
sandwich.
eating a sandwich made only of mac and cheese.
We didn't have any plates.
Look, I thought that he was eating a pimento cheese from the Masters.
No.
That's the vision I have of Bert. That's the world I think he lives in.
That is also the world that he thinks he lives in, and while he tries to manifest that being a pimento cheese sandwich from the Masters. Mac, you guys did a great job breaking it down with GM Rand Carthon, the schedule release show that you did for an audience last night. It looked like a really enjoyable time.
That was great. That was a great event. And then, they had an event upstairs, third floor. First of all, for the suite holders and for the new suite holders, it was very well done. I mean, it was excellent. So Mike Keith and Rand talked up there a little bit, and I spent some time just walking around meeting everybody, doing Coach Mac's stuff. And
That's
then we went back downstairs to the second floor to the new studio that they have. Wow. I mean, that's the first show that they've done in that new production studio there. I mean, Amy Adams Strunk has just – that building continues just to amaze me. But the new studio was a big, big hit, and that was a lot of fun too. It was a really, really good event, and a shout-out to the Titans, their production crew, their social media crew for the things that they put out. That thing that we did, down at Robert's Western World was a blast. It really was. And then their person on the street interviews were just fantastic. So really, really a good evening for everybody concerned with the Titans. So big shout out, big thumbs up to everybody up there in that building.
That's right. You have how dare I forget to mention that we have Coach Mac of the Titans schedule release video, among many others, Nashville celebrities that were in the schedule release at Robert's Western World on Broadway that they put out last night. Mac, how many acting credits do you have on your IMDb now?
Well, I mean, I think I'm close to my SAG card. I asked Mike Keith. His son was on the show The Neighborhoods at CBS last week, and I asked him how close he is to his SAG card, and I think we're running neck and neck. I think he'll probably win because he's in L.A., but I'm pushing him.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Check out the OTP, the official Titans podcast, and all the great work that they do at TennesseeTitans.com. So, Mac, just for a refresher for the audience, how do NFL teams look at the schedule once it's released?
Yeah, Buck, as a coach, and I went through this last night, for our suite holders with Mike Keith. And look, as a coach, it's the way I always look at it. First thing I always want to see, where are my division games and how are they spaced out? Because we all know the quickest way to get into the tournament is at least win your division, correct? So I want to look at that, see how they're spaced out. The next thing I want to look and find immediately is how many, if I have any sandwich games with anybody in the division, and a sandwich game is you play them, play somebody else, and then play them again. I want to see where that is. I also want to look at my altered scheduled games, because that impacts how I'm going to flesh out at least my initial schedule for training camp and for the season. Then I want to, when I get the master schedule, I want to look at and explore and see how many teams I play that they are coming off of a bye, and then who I play coming off of a bye relative to what they've played before, because all of this stuff matters as the season wears on, because our listeners on this show are sophisticated enough. They know, especially as the season grinds on, that injuries play a huge part in these matchups. So, I look at that. as a coach, that's what you want to look at. And then, of course, clearly you're very, very interested, in your opener because that's who you're going to start getting ready for. And really your first 3 or 4 you're looking at, because when you break tape down, I want to look and see how many new head coaches and how many new staffs I'm playing, so that to see how relevant their film is for my pre-breakdown would be, or if it's not relevant at all, where have they come from, to try to get those breakdowns started, with my people that do that stuff. So as a coach, you're looking at really the technical aspects of a whole lot of it, to try to figure out, because you've always got to be working ahead as far as when you start getting into the season, as far as being able to get the tapes broken down, but you have to find out where those people are, who they are, if they're new, where they came from, before you get started, especially the first 5 weeks. Once you get into after the first 5 weeks of the season, then you've got enough relevancy of the immediate as to what those people are going to do. But early on, especially if they're new, there's a lot of stuff you need to flesh out and go back and find it. So all of those things play into it when I look at it with a former coach's eyes.
Well, and that first 4 in particular, that first 6 really, Mac, until they get to the bye week is as difficult. We obviously don't know how these things are going to play out once the season gets here. That's why I always hate schedule predictions and record predictions and things like that. There's so many different unknowns to account for that it's just not relevant analysis. But it is a pretty interesting slate of first 5 games, one of those being in the division, and then not another divisional game, as you mentioned, until they face the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road on November the 19th. It's a pretty big stretch the way that they've got the AFC South game spread out.
Yeah, but the National Football League, of course, they're marketing geniuses. Everything they do, and the schedule is now, and Mike Keith last night gave a very detailed explanation of when the flex games start coming in to being. And again, it's all driven by television, because that's what we're driven by.
Sure.
But now with the flex schedule the way it is, you're going to have a chance, if you're being successful, to have some games that really matter flexed also. But they have it. The league always has now started to really cover themselves, making the later season games be very relevant, because they put a lot of divisional matchups, in the latter part of the season. And so it's all very calculated, the way they do it. And as a coach, you look at those things, but the most important thing is you got to get ready to play week to week to week. But at the first blush, that's kind of what I used to look at immediately, just to kind of get it thrown up there on the wall and say, okay, I've got to start playing some of the things like this. I can't forecast what teams are going to be. I can't forecast what my team is going to be right now until I get them on the grass and you start going through it. And the rest of the stuff makes for great conversation. And believe me, I understand all that of it. But as a coach, when I looked at it, that's what I look for.
Amen, brother. I got an hour and a half more scheduled talk to do today, Mac. Don't you worry. We got it covered.
Absolutely.
But I think the division this year is, the quarterback talent that is now in the AFC South, the young quarterback talent, it makes it as intriguing as anything. And from a coach's standpoint, Lucas had brought up the idea of wouldn't you rather see Anthony Richardson early? Wouldn't you rather see C.J. Stroud early? And I'm like, their entire rookie year is going to be moving at just such a rapid pace, Mac, that I don't necessarily, obviously it would be beneficial to catch them earlier than late, but I think it's just going to be so difficult for any rookie coming into the league, especially at the quarterback position, that's going to be something that Richardson and Stroud are going to, and Levis, should he play at any point, that's something they're going to be up against all season long.
Yeah, well, those are talking points, and here's something else too. Just think about this. As a coach, you look at it. Early on, they may not quite know what they're doing with those players, but if you catch them later on, then they've kind of got that player, dialed into what they want to do with him. That helps you dial your defense in a little bit more. So the unknown, a lot of times early on, the unknown is. You just got to adjust on the run. If you start playing them later on, and those rookies have been playing and they've been the guy, then they've pretty much set into a pattern of how they think they want to develop them for their initial season. So defensively, that helps you some.
Mac, what do coaches think about the London series, like especially now that the NFL is giving them, I don't want to say more meaningful games. Every game is meaningful, but as you said, these things are driven by television, and the matchups that are being sent overseas, Kansas City and Miami, Tyreek Hill playing against the Chiefs for the first time, the Titans in Baltimore, with how great a rivalry that's historically been. Like, what do coaches make of that?
They like it because of this. I went to this is the fourth time I'll be over there, Buck, with a team to London. I went in '86 when they initially started there at Wembley, Bears against Cowboys. And they really over there, the NFL wasn't quite sure what they were doing with it yet, nor were the people, in London quite sure what they're doing with it now. Now they have got it down to such a smooth running operation on both ends. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, it really is. The last time we traveled in 2018, Mike Keith asked this very relevant question last night on the show that we did there in the studio, about how is it, how much more comfortable is it, for Coach Vrabel, just that he's been recently. And I said, it's very comfortable, but also he's been there recently with the same ops crew.
Right.
And that, so that he knows what to expect. And, as a coach, if you can get that down, and then, I mean, look, Buck, it's not like, we're traveling over there on bad transportation, as a team, and you're staying in great places, and they've got it so timed out over there, and the atmosphere is just fabulous. I mean, it truly is. And, you're talking about, for us from here, from Nashville, it's an 8-hour flight. When I was with the Rams, we went over, because Stan Kroenke owned the Arsenal, and we went over. But, we asked the league, we played at Detroit the week before we went over so that we just leave, from the East Coast to take away that 4.5 hours that you fly from East Coast to West Coast, out of that trip. So going over. So it's not a strain at all. And it really, I mean, every coach that I've talked to, I've experienced it. I've been overseas 6 times now with the team. It's gotten better every time. I mean, I really look forward to it. I encouraged our suite holders last night, if they were thinking of going to go, because it's really a good experience.
No, it was phenomenal. That's the first time I've done London with covering a team like that when we went over in 2018.
You know how it was.
Yeah, it's exceptional. But I'm so glad that you brought up the point about Vrabel and the ops team, Mac, because that's not something obviously that the average fan is going to be privy to. You obviously know that a football team goes to play a game in London, but you don't know all the logistics about how they get there and all the people that work behind that tirelessly to make sure that is as seamless as it seems on the outside.
No, that's 100% true. And if you've got a completely different new ops crew and you're completely new, well then there's a lot of stress on that. With Brent Akers and his crew and Mike Vrabel, the way he runs his program, it's so hand in glove that 2018, as I say, was my 5th trip overseas, and it was by far the best. And I am sure that this one will exceed that one.
Well, we will have a great time, certainly, when the Titans travel over there on October the 15th. Titans Radio.
I'm not sure. I don't know how many pubs we'll be in again. We were, that last time was a real show in that one pub we were in downtown. What was it called?
Oh,
Bed
it's
Bath
like
and Beyond or whatever it was.
Bed Bath and Beyond.
I mean, it was something like that.
It was like Barrow Boy Banker or something like that, I think, Mac.
It was packed to the roof with Titans fans. That was really quite a scene.
Well, we can get rowdy in a pub, Mac. We'll get a bunch of Titans fans. It'll be a big time. I have zero doubts that we will be able to do it just as big as we did the last time around, if not bigger. And I look forward to going over there with you, buddy.
All right, Buck. Yeah, as a coach, you're going over there to work. Now that I'm going over there and I can be with the fans, Coach Mac's all down for a good time, internationally or nationally. So here we go.
That's exactly right. It's always a good time when Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio joins us on a Friday. Mac, thank you so much for the time as always, and have a spectacular weekend.
See you, Buck. Bert, enjoy your macaroni and cheese on white bread. I love that. See you, bye.
I don't. Do you see how dismissive he got with you at the end when you lied to him? Did you tell him you were eating a pimento cheese sandwich?
No, I think he just he heard me say. I said he's eating a mac and cheese sandwich, and Coach Mac's probably thinking, well, that's not a thing people do. He must have meant pimento cheese. But it was indeed mac and cheese.
He came in here, or he came into your studio in a way that I can see him. I can only see him when he goes to eat something or smoke a cigarette. That's the only time that I know. That's the only evidence that I have that Bert is actually on the show.
There's food in the break room, by the way.
No, apparently it's mac and cheese sandwiches. What kind of food are you eating in the break room?
There's some pasta salad back there. I had one wing. There's one left.
What the thing? How many plates of food did you get at the golf course yesterday?
I just the one of breakfast casserole, and then I got a little Hunt Brothers pizza.
Okay.
Which wasn't bad.
I ate the
Moderation
rest
is
of it when I was out there doing 3HL for Zone TV, and I there was like 2 pieces left, and I knew that I needed to complete what you started.
This is like in college when, there would be. Did you guys ever do Wounded Soldiers?
Oh, explain that to me. I'm very interested.
Okay. Was there ever a point in time where, because you were, this is probably, Lucas, you think my bottle service stories aren't relatable? Let me see if this is more relatable. Wounded Soldiers is what we would describe as the half-drunk beers.
Oh, right.
That are
Okay.
left around. Perhaps your apartment, perhaps the house that you rent in college after you've had people over or thrown a party or something like that. Have you ever played Wounded Soldiers with your buddies or your roommates where you finish the beers?
I have not.
No, and that's the most lowbrow thing I think I've ever heard you say that you've done on the air, so I'm proud of you for that.
I'm
did that.
so impressed.
I did that at Little 500 my sophomore year. For those of you who are unfamiliar, maybe you've seen the movie Breaking Away about the Little 500 at Indiana. Yeah, well, Little 5 is basically just a party week for the students. They have like Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa doing concerts at frat houses and stuff like that, and everybody's drunk for a week.
R.I.P.
The lame thing is you'll never get to do that again because, one, you don't drink
I
beers.
don't ever want to do that again.
2, you don't have us over at your house for us there to be like half-drank beers sitting around.
No, because I pour anything that the two of you come over and half drink, I pour out immediately.
Or maybe maybe Buck only drinks half drink beer. Like maybe when you hand him a full beer that has not been opened, and he's no, I'm good on that. But then you look at a beer that's been sitting there for 3 hours,
That's fantastic.
and boom.
He just slurgs it down.
Now wait.
What could happen? I wonder what could happen if you drank a beer like that. Like, could you get sick?
Oh yeah, sure. It's disgusting. Are you kidding me? God knows how long it's been sitting out there. God knows the people that you're drinking after in that instance. And largely the beer is flat, but you're a broke college kid and you don't want to waste alcohol. So there you go.
I wish we had a medical professional we could ask questions like this to.
I'm sure.
I think we do.
Do we have a medical professional? So Dr. Lucas.
Yes, Buck.
Dr. Lucas, no. What? I don't like that at all. We're not turning that into a bit. We're not turning the ad reads that you have me cut during the commercial breaks into a bit about you as Dr. Lucas.
We just did.
I hate that. Matthew says, wait, Buck, Wiz came to your school to party? Oh, my God. Yeah, didn't Tennessee have this? Like, what's the big week at Tennessee or ECU?
Boxing weekend.
Boxing weekend?
At Tennessee.
Okay, so like didn't you have like famous acts come and play different venues on campus?
One year, 2 Chainz came, and people were livid because they paid a bunch of money for tickets, and he took the stage like 45 minutes late, and he was on stage for like 15 minutes.
You know who never disappoints when they do college gigs like that? Waka Flocka.
Oh, my dude.
He's still out here, man.
One of the best concerts I've ever been to was Waka Flocka.
I wasn't in a frat, but a buddy of my, we had a bunch of buddies who were in frats, and every time they got kicked off campus, it felt like we had to host them over at our place. But they booked Waka Flocka for Little 5 for their for their week of parties for one of their concerts, because like the frats are giant there. I mean, as I'm sure they are at SEC schools. And they have these giant backyards and they can build the stages and all these things. So I think Waka Flocka demanded of my buddy's frat that he be paid in 500 bottles of Andre, like the $12 champagne, and that's it. Just because he wants the ability to at any point during the show, and he'll be up there for a couple hours, even though you think you only know the one Waka Flocka song. He's going to be up there for a couple hours, and every time he takes even a breath, he is going to have a bottle of champagne in his hand, just popping it on the crowd, because that's how he does.
The only thing I'm embarrassed about ECU for, when Wiz Khalifa came my sophomore year, after his concert was over with, he was promptly arrested. And I am so embarrassed about that. He never came back. We never get any cool acts in Greenville anymore because Wiz Khalifa was arrested.
So it's still the best concert that I've ever seen in my life is my freshman year welcome week, or I'm sorry, Little 5. It was Mac Miller in a parking lot on this rinky-dink stage opening for Wiz. It's the best concert I've ever seen in my life. I've been to all kinds of concerts. We live in Music City. All kinds of world-famous artists come through this place. Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa in a parking lot where my buddy got tased is still the best concert of my life, hands down. Somebody says in the YouTube chat, Buck went from college to retirement home overnight. No, I just, I make money now. I don't have to live that way anymore. I don't understand why people would want to live that way once you have an actual job and stuff. College kids, it makes sense. T.N. Burks is totally shocked that I wasn't in a frat. No. Bert, what was the line that you said to me about not paying for friends then because now I pay for my friends or something like that? Was that not you?
Oh, I don't know. That was very profound thought. Whoever said that. You didn't pay for friends earlier in your life, so you have to pay for them now. What a sad existence you have.
Somebody hit me with that line the other day and it made me out loud laugh. Either way, we're going to talk steeplechase and play a little horse or rock band coming up next. Welcome back to the show. Steeplechases this weekend. It's a Nashville institution. We're getting ready to have the chairman of the Iroquois Steeplechase coming up in just a little bit, Dwight Hall. Going to tell us what's going on. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to do Steeplechase in the morning, go to Titans Rookie Minicamp, and then come back and do Steeplechase in the afternoon. It's always a great time. But Dwight's got a really, really interesting background in racing, and in particular with the Iroquois Steeplechase, which has been doing it in Nashville for a very, very long time. Bert, you haven't been to this thing. This is not something. Are you familiar with what the Iroquois Steeplechase is?
Not at all. Not even a little bit. I thought it was just going to be like a horse race, but there's other stuff in it too. So people just dress up, right? Get drunk, have fun.
Well, yes, that is the principle. There's alcohol, there's nice hats and dresses. It's like Nashville's Derby, but it's not the same kind of race, right? They're racing on grass as opposed to a dirt track. Do they? This is funny because I hosted the event last year. They do stuff like jumping hedges and stuff like that. Like they have those obstacles in the way for the horses and stuff. Like it's a different kind of like horse skill set. And obviously, for people who don't consider like the horses to be athletes, like just go watch this stuff. It's incredible. And especially the way that they zoom around the track at the Champions Corner where we're going to be hanging out. The tickets, by the way, if you want to hang out with us in the Champions Corner, they're at 1045thezone.com. It's all-inclusive food and beverage and parking with your ticket. It's a really great setup. And Cumulus, the entire cluster, not just the zone, but all we have 6 stations in the building? 5 stations? 6 stations?
5.
I think 5 stations in the building. And it's a great time. It's always a lot of fun to so we're grateful to be invited back out again. But in the meantime, do you want to play Horse or Rock Band?
I'd love to.
Let's.
It's time to play Nashville's favorite game, Horse or Rock Band. Buck, I know you're self-involved, so we'll go with a guess that kind of serves around you. Your host. Is your host a rock band or a horse?
Your host is a horse.
That is correct.
2-1 on the season.
What? Has he got 2 right?
Yeah.
He's 2 for 3?
He's 2 for 3.
I hate that.
On the day.
We're going to have to mix him up a little bit. All right, Buck, what is London Grammar? Is London Grammar a horse or a rock band?
That's a horse.
Horse.
No.
That's a band.
He's thrown me. He did throw me a curveball. You know why? Because he went 3 straight horses out the gate. That was the first rock band.
He's on to me. Which way am I going to go now? Native Dancer. Is that a horse or a rock band?
Oh, that sounds.
Don't think about it too hard. Horse or rock band?
That sounds culturally insensitive. Are we sure? Horse.
Dang it, that's correct.
Of course, the horse would be the one with the culturally insensitive name.
Mount Moriah. Is Mount Moriah a horse or a rock band?
Sounds very East Nashville. Sounds like somebody I'd see at the 5 spot. I'll go Mount Moriah is a rock band.
He's getting hot. That's a rock band.
I mean, listen, it's no fun if I win the game. Do you guys want to play it amongst yourselves?
No. What, you're too good at this now? You're too good? All right, 4-star.
I've clearly beaten you.
Listen, 4-star Dave. Is 4-star Dave a horse or a rock band?
God, I hope it's a horse, but it's a rock band.
Rock band.
It's a horse. Do you guys want me to play? You guys want to play the game? You guys want to make it interesting? I'm so good at this irrelevant game. Count Fleet, Buck. Is Count Fleet. Sounds like a fast vampire. Is Count Fleet a horse or a rock band?
That is a rock band.
I lost my place. Hold on. I got to scroll. Hold on. What
No. In the meantime, T.N. Berg says, Buck is definitely a proud member of cancel culture. No, I just recognize things that I should probably be paying attention to like you should be.
Is Count Fleet a horse or a rock band?
That's a horse. Actually, I said rock band the first time.
Okay, so which is it?
It's a rock band.
You're wrong. It's a horse.
We'll end on a bad note.
I think you're at a good 50% there.
I think I'm at 500. Oh, goodness. Good. The stupidity is concluded just in time for the chairman of the Iroquois Steeplechase to join us now on 104.5 The Zone. Dwight Hall has called in, and we will get you some details on this fantastic annual event that goes down in Bellevue each and every year. Dwight, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So the Iroquois Steeplechase is obviously something that is very near and dear to the city of Nashville, to Middle Tennessee, and to you in particular. I was just reading a little more about your background with the Steeplechase as participating in races going back to the 60s. Could you fill the audience in a little bit on how much this just specifically means for you?
Well, obviously, since I've been involved with it for a long time, started off as a rider. Actually, I used to live in Pennsylvania, came down the first time when I was a junior in high school and rode for a horse of Calvin Hoagland's, who was one of the founders of the race meet, and then rode for 26 years. So I have a long history with the race, and being a local event, it means a lot to me, and able to continue the tradition that the steeplechase has meant to Nashville.
So why has the tradition of steeplechase lasted as long and is still as meaningful to the city of Nashville from your standpoint?
Well, I think there's a little bit of something for everyone. I mean, it's racing, it's fashion, it's food, it's fun for families, it's fun for tailgating. If you're in that age group, it's something that everyone can participate in and have fun in. And typically, we're just coming out of winter, and it's a great time to get out and enjoy the outdoor weather in a beautiful park.
Dwight Hall, chairman of the Iroquois Steeplechase, is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Dwight, I was it was my first time out at the event last year. It was so much fun, and I'm fortunate to be able to go back this year. And that was I was learning last year about snap decision at the time. It sounds like he has the opportunity. The horse has the opportunity to make a little bit of history on Saturday with the amount of success he's had at the race.
Yes, he will make a lot of history. If he wins on Saturday, he'll be the first horse to win it 3 years in a row. And he would only be the second horse to have won it 3 times. So it really will be historic if he can win it on Saturday.
For people who are attending or who may be making last-minute decisions to attend, Dwight, what tips or advice would you give them about preparing for the event and what Saturday is going to entail?
Well, we hope some of this rain gets out of here. You can still buy tickets online. Some areas are sold out, but we have tickets that are available. Our tickets are all digital. So if you buy a ticket today, you can print everything at home, and you don't have to worry about it being delivered to you. One big tip this year, first time, print your parking pass at home. So because we are digital, we're not mailing anything out. Just remember to, before you leave the house, to print your parking pass at home, and then just dress appropriately for the weather that we have tomorrow.
Well, it's going to be, regardless of weather, it's going to be a great event. It always is. Dwight, thank you so much for taking the time and for having us out tomorrow. I'm looking forward to being there.
Well, great. Thank you for having me on.
That's Dwight Hall, the chairman of the Iroquois Steeplechase, a great event with a long-lasting tradition here in Nashville. Do you guys get into horse racing at all? Like, have you guys been to any horse races? Like, we have a park in Evansville called Ellis Park, and it's a local track. I think it's technically on the Kentucky side of things. But it was something that, like my grandparents used to go all the time. You could do like dollar hot dogs and dollar beers at Ellis Park, go watch the horses and stuff like that. Horse racing appeal to either of you at all?
I come from a long line of horse riders, Buck. My mom was a championship barrel racer, and my dad raised miniature horses until one kicked me when I was a child, and he sold all of them.
I believe every word he said.
I had a miniature horse named Taz, and he was nice to me, but I would always bring him around with me and have him bite my friends. Like if you got too close to him, he'd bite you, but he ended up biting one of my dad's friends, and he ended up selling him.
Bit one too many people.
Are we? This is like a truth according to Kirby segment.
No, this is what you have doubt about what he's saying here?
No, but I'm so disoriented by the number of details. Lies always have more details in them, in my experience.
I believe every word.
Let me see if I got a picture of good old Taz.
Okay.
They love horse racing in Indiana. Is that an Indiana thing? Because I remember being in Indy for the Titans game this past fall and walking into an establishment.
Yeah.
Like it was a sports bar. I didn't realize it was like a sports bar where you can also gamble. And like half the TVs, it was a college football game day and there's a ton of football on, but there was a lot of horse racing on.
I mean, I can't
like chariot racing.
I can't speak. Oh, well, yeah. Chariot racing is something that is a novelty. They do that at Ellis too. That's just like locally in Evansville where my mom's side of the family is from. Ellis Park has been there for 1,000 years. And like Evansville, if you're familiar with, Indiana, Kentucky, that's just to the north of us. Evansville's only like 2 hours from Nashville because it's literally at the bottom of the state. So proximity to Kentucky, I think, plays a big role in that as far as the interest in racing. But I can't speak for the rest of the state. Either way. Evan Wright says, isn't Indiana one of the worst Midwest states? No, it's just one of the worst states. And I'm from there.
I think just Midwest states, like they're all kind of in that bucket.
I don't
like the worst place.
Indiana,
to go.
I love it. The only redeeming quality of that state is the university that I went to in that basketball team, even though I hate them for basically 4 months of my life every year. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the AFC South schedule in particular, how things stack up for the Titans, and talk about whose wide receiver room is worse, Texans or Titans. That's next.
It is 12:04. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans 2023 schedule is officially out, and the Two-Tone Blue opened the season week 1 in New Orleans. The home opener comes week 2 against the Chargers. Titans bye week comes the week of October 22nd, the week after they face the Baltimore Ravens in London. The schedule includes 2 primetime matchups, Thursday Night Football in Pittsburgh and Monday Night Football in Miami. College baseball, Tennessee at Kentucky this weekend. Game 1 first pitch is at 5:30 later today. Vol Network coverage on The Zone picks up at 6. You can also hear games 2 and 3 of the series right here. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt headed to Florida for the weekend. Game 1 this afternoon starts at 4:30 in Gainesville. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. Real quick today. We're happy to have you at least for the next 55 minutes or so before Blaine and Mickey take things over. 615-737-1045. Jump in as you like. Schedule release is officially done. We now know all 272 games with the exception of a few Week 18 Saturday or Sunday TBDs. We now know when each and every NFL game will be played and against whom. Titans schedule, how it breaks down, what do you like about it, what do you not like about it at this particular stage. You can jump in if you want to with your questions, comments, and opinions. We will do the best job humanly possible to answer all of your concerns. The AFC South is something that I was interested in, right? That's my biggest question around the schedule release. Given the new format, or not new format, but the new structure of how networks can kind of pick games to put on their broadcast air, would this hurt the Titans? Would this benefit the Titans? Would this impact them at all based on how often or how rarely they are a primetime feature or a nationally televised feature for this league? The Monday Night Football game schedule is one that's really, really good this year. ESPN has to be juiced with how that went down. They're putting it up on the screen right now. Jets and Bills with Aaron Rodgers in week 1. You've got Bryce Young and the Saints in week 2. Browns and Steelers also as a part of the doubleheader situation in Deshaun Watson's first full season as the Browns quarterback. Whatever issues you may have with Deshaun, obviously, the intrigue that's going to be around Cleveland this year in that division. Bert, who's favored to win the AFC North? Is it the Ravens?
That's a good question. I would assume it would be the Bengals, but let me check on that.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, because that's a pretty log-jam division, too. I don't know what to do with Pittsburgh, and all they do is win 9 games a year. But in the AFC South, the thing that was most interesting to me when I saw the full schedules come out, they didn't put the Colts or Texans on television for the rest of the country at all.
Other than the
London game.
Are the Colts in London or Frankfurt?
I'm sorry. Colts-Patriots is in Frankfurt. Thank you for the correction. It is a part of the international series. It's a 9:30 Eastern time kickoff, so an 8:30 Central time kickoff between the Pats and the Colts as the 4th of 5 international games in that series. So that's the only time that Indianapolis is going to be nationally televised, scheduled to be nationally televised at this point. With Richardson and Houston has all noon games except for one 3:05 kickoff at this point.
The Titans do not have any 3:05 or 3:25 kickoff.
It's all noon or prime time or London.
Every home game is a noon game.
Ooh.
At Nissan Stadium.
Ugh. That stinks. Just because it's so damn hot at Nissan for people who are that's the one thing that I was most shocked about. Like, because, we're in the press box, so I don't notice. I mean, I notice the weather, obviously, walking into work. But, I'm not sitting out there in the stands and stuff like that. We used to be out there pregame and on the field and all these things. But, the idea of how exposed you are to the elements in Nissan, I can't imagine. People who have done games and from basically September through the middle of October in Nashville, Tennessee. I can't imagine the people that are sitting on the most exposed side of Nissan Stadium are not happy to see them putting a dome on that thing.
Yeah, and that's assuming that last game against Jacksonville is also a noon game. That game could obviously get flexed.
It could get flexed. So at this point, the only thing that we don't know about the Titans schedule is what day and what time specifically their season finale that will be played at home this year will be against the Jags at this point.
But if I told you that the Titans would get more primetime games than the Texans or Colts combined, what would you have said?
Oh, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked. It just seems so antithetical to how the networks would want that, right? With the rookie quarterbacks being that's the biggest reason to watch either of those teams, right? C.J. Stroud and I guess Will Anderson, but Will Anderson isn't going to be the thing that's on all the marketing packages. I mean, he might be because the whole country knows who Will Anderson is. He's played enough games for Alabama at this point.
What is that? What are they telling you with that? Is it like, I don't think they're going to be any good.
Yeah, they think they're going to be bad.
Right. And with the Titans, Derrick Henry is certainly the most marketable player, but
they've learned enough that at least the Titans will play close.
Right.
Like they may not be a good team. They may not be the most sellable team, but you're going to get a competitive product out of them far more times than not.
Right. The team that took the Chiefs to overtime on Sunday Night Football in Arrowhead with Malik Willis as their quarterback.
Which I thought might be in jeopardy after Buffalo. Like the Buffalo game was just disgusting.
Yeah, but it was early, right? And that didn't happen again for the rest of the season.
Ricky on Facebook Live says prefer the 3 o'clock kickoff games, but when we got 0. Yeah, that's typical. That I think is the networks correcting on the Titans, right? We'll give you the primetime games because we know you can make those matchups a little spicier than they might otherwise be, but the rest of it we're not. Get out of here with the 3:05 kickoffs on CBS or Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, where you're getting all noon the rest of the time. That I think is the course correction, or at least the middle ground between what I thought might be the case for them and what's actually being done to them. They're just going to be relegated to the noon slate.
And I think it's the third year in a row where you get one AFC South opponent twice in 3 weeks.
Houston?
Yeah, playing Houston on December 17th and on New Year's Eve.
That is the one, and I think that's the next, because immediately now that people have the schedule, they want to know when the Oilers throwbacks game is going to be. And so help me God, if you've made Jim Wyatt wait this long to tweet out a Britches report about the Houston Oilers, then you're damn well going to wait until the week that they actually do it. At this point, they'll probably have some kind of lead up, right? Or they'll let Jimmy do it. They have to. The team can't take away the Britches report.
Can't take the Britches report.
You cannot take the Britches report away from Wyatt. I don't know what I'll do.
But that's one of the biggest surprises, right? Neither the Colts nor Texans getting a single primetime game.
I would just think early, like the Monday Night Football games, the way that they're doing with Bryce Young and New Orleans, right? They're putting Saints at the Panthers on national television early on. It's a part of the doubleheader, so it'll be an earlier kickoff, and they're sandwiching it with the Browns and the Steelers, or not sandwiching it, but they're packaging it with the Browns and the Steelers. But I would have thought that like ESPN or the first Thursday Night Football game, they might think about putting one of the rookie quarterbacks from the AFC South, given that they're the second overall pick and the fourth overall pick with Richardson. I thought they might want to try it at least early, but
so is the NFC South? We'd have to tally some of these up, but is the NFC South the division with the least amount of primetime games?
Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Because we talked about two of the teams that you thought wouldn't be very attractive to networks, and Falcons and Bucks are two of them, both in the NFC South. Bucks got 2. Falcons got 0 primetime games. And the Panthers and Saints, I'll have to check and see.
So ESPN is televising 16 games, one game each Monday night in weeks 1 through 15. And they will have the Saturday night game in week 17 that will be, they will simulcast on ABC those games, by the way, which is a big win for ABC in weeks 1, 11, and 17. How are they splitting the crews up on that? That doesn't say, because are they putting Joe Buck and Troy Aikman? I mean, I would assume they put Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on ABC.
Last year, I think because Steve Levy and I think Levy did the games with Orlovsky.
Okay, maybe that was it.
when I think it was Levy Orlovsky Riddick, right?
Yeah, because they were in Buffalo with us. Because
Right.
I remember talking to Dan pregame with when they were down on the sidelines. All right, so ABC. What is that?
You have any cash in your wallet?
Do I have cash in my
Bert, will
wallet?
you walk in there with a bucket? Bert's coming in.
I'm on it.
I haven't had cash in my wallet since 2018.
Sorry, it's fair. You don't know this yet. We have an agreement that whenever you unnecessarily name drop someone and it brings no added insider information to the show, then you have to put $1 in the bucket.
So can I do this? Is this going to be like the performing artists on Broadway, where now they've gotten wise to the system of saying, "Oh, I don't carry cash," and is there going to be a Venmo QR code on our bucket?
Yeah, maybe that's what we need to do.
Oh my God, is this get that out of here? Is that
Is
your
that the-
macaroni tray?
the mac and cheese tray. Put $1 in the mac and cheese
I don't
tray.
have cash.
All right, we'll
Do
we'll
either
come
of
up-
you carry cash?
No, we'll come up with a
Stop
QR code.
rattling the baked macaroni crumbs around at me in that tinfoil pan. I don't carry cash. I will Venmo you just to get out of this room.
We came up with this when you were
Shadows.
You were talking about Cliff.
not working.
Oh, who was it? We were talking about Cliff Kingsbury, and you said something to the effect of, "Yeah, I don't really know Cliff. We met once in passing at the combine. It was just like a hello goodbye thing." And then me and Bert were like, "We should find him every time he just unnecessarily drops in a name just to say that you met that person without it adding any added value to the show."
I'm totally down for that. We can, we haven't done the fine bucket in a while, so we can give those proceeds to Home Street Home the way that we should have been, because God knows I'll do that more. I'll double down and say, who else I was on the sidelines with at that Buffalo game? Jelly Roll.
Who was in the Titans schedule release video?
He was. Let's talk about the Titans schedule release video coming up next. We'll also get into, given that we're talking about the AFC South in particular, ESPN did a ranking of the best and worst, well, basically all 32 NFL wide receiver cores in the league. And it will not surprise you where the Titans landed on that list. We'll give you the details on that coming up next. So as we look at the Titans' schedule, what's the toughest stretch, do we think, at this point? We've dissected what they've got in the AFC South, where things break down. I was talking to Ramon as we were crossing paths this morning, right when I walked in before the show, and he was, as a former player, he told me his emphasis, and I know he talked about this on the morning show, but he said his emphasis in particular was on that first 6-game stretch until the bye week. And his logic for that I thought was interesting. I wonder how it strikes the two of you and the audience listening. He said that because of the degree of difficulty, understanding that we don't know truly what these teams are going to look like, probably we won't have a good idea of who they are until October. Because that 6-game stretch initially has some of the best opponents on the Titans' schedule, some of the opponents that we figure will be the more competitive opponents this year, of the 7 total playoff teams that they will play from last year, Ramon says that 6-game stretch, or Ramon told me that 6-game stretch is the most interesting to me, because if they struggle, would that Week 7 bye after London be an opportunity to change quarterbacks? And when he said that, I was like, oh, I mean, sure. But that would assume that going into 2023 that the quarterback is in danger of losing his job. Now, he may be in danger of losing his job beyond 2023, and there may be something that, maybe we see a precipitous drop-off with Ryan Tannehill. But if you look at all the advanced metrics on Tannehill from last year when he was available, in terms of how people chart these things, his passing efficiency, like Tannehill was more serviceable than the parts around him allowed him to be. That doesn't mean that he was the best quarterback in the world. There was definitely some moments where you could fault Ryan Tannehill for the performance of the team, or fault Ryan Tannehill primarily for the performance of the team, but not as many as I think were projected because of how quickly things went awry.
He was almost never the problem.
Anytime the quarterback has a problem, it highlights, it's highlighted in a much, much more significant way. Now, they're the one of 2 players who touches the ball on every snap offensively, right? So, they are going to be highly scrutinized. And only every once in a while, who was it, Kevin Strong, that had that terrible false start on the goal line that allowed an opponent last year to have it was either a easier chance at a touchdown. It might have been the Jags game. I can't remember. No, was it the Chiefs? I can't remember. And it might not even be Kevin Strong. It was one of the depth defensive linemen that had a bad moment at a big spot on the goal line. You know who I'm talking about?
Was it Sam O?
I don't think it was Sam O. I know what Sam O looks like, and this guy was not Sam O. I want to say it was Kevin Strong. But either way, I can't remember the game, and I can't remember the specific situation. But quarterback, when the quarterback screws up, it's highlighted far more often. Like in 2021, when Ryan Tannehill threw 4 interceptions in a sloppy game against Tyrod Taylor and the Texans, was Des Fitzpatrick hammered initially for running the wrong routes that caused Ryan Tannehill to throw at least one of those 4 interceptions? No. The emphasis was, the quarterback turned the ball over 4 times, and so they lost the game. Interceptions have to be taken on an individual basis, and it's why I think people are so much harder on quarterbacks, because we do like we always do, right? Instead of taking each game as an individual sample size, we say that, the Titans are 7-3. And then when Keyshawn Johnson gets on SportsCenter or whatever ESPN radio show he was on and says, the Titans aren't a real 7-3 team, and then people get all bent out of shape about it, there's somewhere in between to say, no, you don't have to call them a real 7-3 team to not think that they are as good as their record indicates that they are. And I think that is that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at the Titans schedule with and saying, okay, at Saints, home Chargers, at Cleveland, home Bengals, at Indy, London, Baltimore, and then the bye. That is probably the most difficult stretch of their schedule, even a schedule that features, after the bye, 3 consecutive road games. Atlanta, and then 3 consecutive road games.
Only 2 home games in there. So you got to face Herbert, Watson, Burrow in weeks 2 through 4.
Yeah. What, you don't fear Derek Carr? He's a good quarterback. He's a fine quarterback. Derek Carr is a fine quarterback. We're going to get into, speaking of the AFC South, we're going to get into a conversation that came about their wide receivers, the entire league's wide receiver groups, and where the Titans and Texans ranked. We'll get to that in a second, but Steve is in Nashville up next. Hey, Steve.
Okay, how you doing, buddy? Hey,
Good.
It was Kevin Strong, and they were kicking a field goal, I believe, and then they wound up resetting it, and they gave up a touchdown for it, I think. I can't remember who it was against, but I agree, though. The first 6 games are the toughest, by the way. You're forgetting about Jackson in there also, is who we face. And I still am the guy who says, hey, just put Levis out there because everybody else is, and we know where Tannehill's ceiling is, so why not see what you got from game one? And you may call me nuts, but I think 2 of those 6 are winnable. But the rest of them, it's going to be a tough year, tough stretch.
So, wait, Steve, let me ask you this question.
Go for it.
I'm not going to dismiss what you're saying about Levis because I think there was a lot of people who said that about Mariota and Tannehill, even though that was a different situation. Would you rather them just, go ahead and do the Levis thing, or would you rather them do the Mariota thing, which is, okay, we'll ride this thing out, see if it can work until such time as we know it's going to fail, and then make the change?
That's a good question. I still say you spent basically a first round. You got the guy. Okay, you got the guy on the cheap because you got him in the second round, right? So he doesn't have a 5th-year option. You might as well see what you got because next year I still would argue that you should have waited for a quarterback next year. But since it's done, I don't want to be in the same boat I am for several years. Now, the thing they didn't address, which is killing everybody, which, by the way, this is the dumbest thing in sports. Everybody says, oh, if he had weapons around him. Buck, if he had weapons around him, you and I could go out there and hand the ball off twice and throw it once, okay? So that's why I say go ahead and put Will out there and let him see what he can do. But let's address some free agents in this in the next round of cuts.
Thanks for the call, Steve. I appreciate it. Oh, now we're comfortable with the Oscars music now that people are making salient points about ticket prices and whatnot. Or people were hot at you yesterday for the amount of people in my mentions about playing Oscars music on people trying to articulate the season ticket costs and differences.
Keep it a little shorter. We all got time.
I know. They know the rules. They keep it
60
down.
seconds.
To
my defense, you had just texted me, don't be afraid to use the Oscars music. So that felt like you opened the stable and let the stallion out. So I was just going to let everybody get to Oscar music.
What are the Falcons called according to the Titan schedule release? The Red Stallions?
Rawr.
Red Stallions.
Rawr.
Yeah, you have to throw the rawr in there.
The TikTok schedule release was so much better than the produced one. Like here's the thing, okay? And we'll get to that in a second because we got a train of thought about the quarterbacks and people are calling in. So I want to keep it consistent, but we do have to talk about this damn schedule release video. Colt is calling us from Memphis up next. Hey, Colt.
Hey guys, this idea that you know what you got in Tannehill. I mean, he got us to an AFC championship, mind you. He threw 4 interceptions in that game, but he is a solid quarterback. Last year was a wash. He had no offensive line. He had no receivers. So this idea of let's just play Levis, we don't know. We're paying Tannehill, $36 million? I mean, so you're going to have to pay him. Otherwise, it's dead cap money. He's on your roster. He can win you games. Why not let him win you some games, see if he can get us to the playoffs, and let Levis sit and get ready for a year? This idea that Levis throw him to the Wolves and ruin his career, kind of like the guy up in New York, Zach Wilson, that's crazy.
Thanks for the call, Colt. So here's how, and I can't speak for Mike Vrabel, but this is how, based on, pattern of behavior and what I know about Mike, and frankly, what he said, right, at the press conference. Like, people got bent out of shape because I think Diana was on television the other day. They asked her for a Titans update, and she said, yeah, Ryan Tannehill's going to be the starter week 1. There's the locker room is behind him, right? And she said what Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel told us at the draft. It's just that's the first time the television has asked for a Titans update, so Diana went on TV, and then people tried to turn it into news. Kind of like Ben Arthur's thing, right? Or Ben Arthur's asked for a roster projection. He says, yeah, Malik Willis probably the odd man out, and then people get aggregated it and turn it into Ben reporting that Malik Willis on May the 12th is getting cut. No. So Tannehill, I think that Mike Vrabel, when it comes to personnel, prefers to use veteran players until such time as it's untenable. Ryan Tannehill is anything but an untenable situation. In fact, he is the thing that best gives you the opportunity to win games. Now, that also runs up against one of Vrabel's annual kind of reminders to the team. He's played horse racing clips in years past where he kind of uses the analogy of a horse race for the NFL schedule for what September and October are, as opposed to November and December when things really start to crack down, especially now that all the schedules are division heavy on the back half. It's something that I think Mike would ride with the veteran until such time as they couldn't anymore, if they couldn't anymore. Now, I will say that Vrabel and that staff liked Ryan Tannehill more coming out of training camp than they did Marcus Mariota, and that the front office wanted to ride Mariota out until such time as it became untenable, and then obviously the famous Week 6 at Denver, they lose to Joe Flacco, and it's just a hideous thing all over the place, and then the Titans go to the AFC Championship game. So ceiling on Tannehill, yeah, there's whatever. The ceiling on a player like that is probably, yeah, they're going to be above average if you give them a good surrounding. And I think you can go to a Super Bowl with an above average quarterback. Can you win a Super Bowl? I don't know. There's so many different variables that factor into those kind of things, and luck that you just simply can't account for. I've maintained, even after the Bengals game, that quarterback is good enough to get to a Super Bowl. If he can get you to the game, doesn't matter. I mean, yes, does it matter if he can win it or not? But it gives you an opportunity to compete in that game. A quarterback of that level is good enough to do so. So just because you haven't seen him do it doesn't mean that he's not capable. The Levis thing, now no rookie quarterback situation is created equal, although this one seems to be well equipped to kind of foster that growth and development that Will Levis requires. I will say, do you remember Trevor? Was Trevor on the radio show on Monday? What point was Trevor on the radio show this week? Monday or Tuesday?
Time is a flat circle.
Okay. It was the day after I ate the chip, so Tuesday, because I remember you made me tease that while my mouth was on fire and it hurt worse to talk. Trevor Sikkema of Pro Football Focus said the thing about Levis is the amount of pressure that was on him to try and get things right when everything was very, very wrong around him at Kentucky caused a lot of the bad tape. He's, the idea of comparing 2021 Kentucky to what he needs at the Tennessee Titans is funny. We made that joke earlier in the week. But I think putting that amount of pressure on him right out of the gate, I don't think that benefits a young quarterback. He's not like Anthony Richardson, where there's not a sample size of him playing football. I've seen Will Levis play plenty of football in a couple of different spots. Anthony Richardson has a starting sample size of 12 games. And I think the year prior he had He played like 200 snaps. So that's somebody who just needs to get out there and play. Mahomes as sitting for a year is an example, or Rodgers for sitting as long as he did with Favre in front of him. All those things are well and good, but not in today's economy, because a caller rightly brought up, they don't have a fifth-year option. The caller that wanted to start him right away. So you're burning time as soon as this dude hits your roster.
I feel like that's the biggest argument for throw him out there.
It's the only
the window is shrunk.
It's the only really logical argument that I think fits here. Given what we know about the organization, what we know about the parts and pieces involved, the money around it, where you're trying to maximize that window, that's the biggest selling point for Will Levis out the gate.
But even if the situation was better as far as the weapons around him, and you expect the offensive line to be better, there are still questions. Like, it's still an unknown, right?
Mm-hmm. I have no idea. All I know is the offensive line is different.
Yes.
They are different people. They wear different numbers. They have different faces.
And on paper, it is better. Like, Andre Dillard is on paper a better football player than Dennis Daly.
God, you better hope so.
But I do think it's, I feel like people are jumping to the assumption that the O-line is just going to be elite again. And we don't know that yet.
No. I think that most rational people are saying, okay, they have to be better.
Yeah.
They simply have to be. But I would have said the same thing about their injury situation from 21 to 22, And while they didn't quite hit 91, I was just playing percentages, being like, well, there's no way they could be as hurt as they were in 2021. And then, oh my God.
But even if the situation in a hypothetical world where Levis is playing for the Titans in 2023, even if the situation around him was better, that doesn't mean there won't be a ton of growing pains. And it's about if you're willing to deal with that for the sake of seeing what you have earlier rather than later. Like we talk about his 2021 tape, the good, 2022, the bad. There are still a lot of. He threw more interceptions in 2021 than he did 2022.
There's the decision making,
Yeah,
right?
that has been
He's not a clean prospect.
People try to make it really black and white, like 21 Levis, best quarterback prospect in America. 22 Levis, terrible. Like, no, it's a little more in the middle than that. Like, there were still issues in 2021, but it was better because of the situation around him. But there was still accuracy and decision making problems in 21. There will be growing pains regardless of the situation if you throw him out there as a rookie.
You know, this is what I'm fascinated, and not even just because that event is coming up next weekend with Greg. By the way, I saw the venue for the Install Live show. I texted you guys. I was hype. I am so fired up about this. The production is going to be exceptional. The venue is sick. The bar is awesome. Like not that anybody cares about interior design stuff, but like the analog in the Hutton Hotel for next weekend, the Install Live show. Greg's flying down here, and we're going to do it with a bunch of you guys. A lot of you guys have bought tickets, and it's a 250-seat venue, so we can accommodate quite a few more, fortunately.
He was an interior decorator. Don't worry about it. Keep talking. Just an inside joke. For me, Bert, and anybody else that watches The Sopranos, which you don't, clearly, because you're an uncultured swine. Watch The Sopranos.
I did. I watched it all during COVID.
You didn't get that reference?
You Philistine.
I mean, it's been a couple of years. I've also had brain fog a couple of times since then.
The Pine Barrens?
No.
He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. He was an interior decorator.
Guy's apartment looked like crap.
Why am I need to watch this again.
It's one of the best episodes of The Sopranos.
Chris and Paulie stranded in the woods.
Oh, my God.
The Russian gets away from him. Yeah. They're like, I don't know how he got away.
That is an iconic sequence. That I remember.
He was
like
an
the two
interior
of them.
decorator.
The two. Oh, my God.
But that's Tony calls him.
That's right.
Yeah, he's breaking up on the phone.
Yeah.
And they mishear him. Very funny moment.
I need to go. See, but this is my problem. Like, I'll go back and watch old shows before I'll go. I just rewatched all of Veep because how unbelievably foul she is
amazing
hilarious to me. I can't stop laughing.
Unreal show.
Veep is incredible. Like somebody said you need to watch the Mindy Project, and I made a couple episodes through the Mindy Project. And I was like, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Veep, and then I just watched all of Veep over again.
I went back to watch it instead,
and it was so good. It was worth it. Sopranos would be too. Anyway, last call for phone calls. 615-737-1045. We'll update the polls. No, I had a point. I had a point about the install. That's why we're talking about it. Don't distract me. This is what you're sitting there doing soprano lines while I'm trying to plug the event. The thing about Levis, and we'll end it on this, is that Greg Cosell and a lot of smart football people. Lucas, you remember when I came in here with that clip of Greg talking about Will Levis after 2021? That guy has the tape to be the first overall pick in that draft. And that was a draft class that included Bryce Young. And Greg, to talk about this on next Saturday with you guys, he's got a whole film setup for you guys to understand where the drop-offs happened, where the decision-making was already a problem in 2021, why that was still good enough for him to think that the tape was worthy of the first overall selection, theoretically, coming out of that year, and then where things changed for Will Levis in 2022. That's going to be a part of one of the segments that we're doing for the Install Live show. The tickets are available at 1045thezone.com, and in fact, Bert will drop them in the volunteering you. Thank you, Bert. To drop the link in the Zone TV stream chat for those of you who are still considering plans next Saturday. 6. This doors open at 6. They got a full bar. They're going to have VIP food set up and seating for those of you guys who want to get the VIP tickets. But the GA, it's $25. It's going to be a party with a bunch of you and your favorite Titans friends. And, Greg and I breaking down the tape. All right, phone calls, polls next. Vibes are high, kids. That music means it's the end of the work week for us. At least you're getting a little further towards your workday ending as well. Thanks for hanging out with us all week long. It's been a lot of fun. Last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045. I don't have to speak for Robert and Lucas, but I know they are just as appreciative that you allow us to do this stupid, silly radio show for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, the way that we get to. Let's go to Lucas. You just told me how to pronounce the caller's name, and I've forgotten.
Say it.
Mylan? Are you going to help me?
Let him do it.
That's not helpful. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're all good. My name's Milton Zaver. Man, I just want to say, first of all, man, we love listening to you guys. I know so many people, friends, family, that tune into you guys every single day, and we absolutely enjoy you guys. So I know you said it's a goofy talk show for 3 hours, but, man, we love it. It gets us through the day, gets us through the week. So I appreciate you guys, number one.
Well, thank you.
Number two, I hate to bring up old and, like, things that you know, we shouldn't dwell on, but what is your guys' take on us not taking a receiver early in the draft? I mean, we already pretty much have the worst wide receiver core in the NFL. Didn't do anything to better it. And now, I mean, we're drafting quarterback, we're drafting offensive positions, but, I mean, what do you guys think about that, right? Like, what are we going to do? It doesn't matter who we have at quarterback. If we can't get a receiver open, we're not going to go anywhere.
Well, I've spoken. Thank you for the call, and it's very kind of you, the kind words you said. We're happy to try and entertain as best we can. But the wide receiver situation, I spoke to this, I think, earlier this week, what they were kind of trying to tell you. They're banking on two things. One, they think they've got better wide receivers than you think they've got. Okay? They think that Treylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, and the rest of what they've got on the roster is superior, or at least better, to what everybody's giving them credit for. Now, whether they turn out to be right on that is a complete unknown, because I have no idea what Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips are on a consistent basis. I've barely seen them play. So beyond that, like their plan right now is this wide receiver core. Do I agree with it? I didn't necessarily in the immediate, but I will say that I talked to a lot of people around the league about like wide receivers who I like A.T. Perry and Xavier Hutchinson dropping in the draft, or who's the kid from Stanford that fell a little later than I thought we might.
Was it Turner?
Turner? Yeah, Turner. Forgive me, I don't remember. There's so many names. I feel like I've been going through my head for 3 months, and now I can't remember any of them. But, like, there were a lot of receivers that dropped, and I had a lot of...
Michael Wilson,
thank you. Michael Turner is a fullback from the Falcons a couple of years ago. Anyway, I had somebody explain it to me that, based on the board, there were a lot of teams who were not willing to overdraft wide receivers this year. There were wide receivers that worked, but the thing that we all knew, that the NFL had told us, that the wide receiver class was not a great one. There were functional players in there, but not things worth overdrafting based on your board. And what they told us is they weren't overdrafting based on their board at one particular position. Polls, please.
The Buck Rising Show's almost done. Yeah. We have come to this portion of the program where we update the poll. Yeah.
Settle down, Beavis.
Go ahead, update them, Buck. Buck.
We're gonna score.
Hey, Buck.
Buck doesn't update the polls, dummy. You're stupid.
Yeah. Time for a poll update. Hey, how's it going, man?
You said poll.
Yeah. Lucas Panzica. Yeah, are you threatening me? I am the great Cornpolio.
Hey, Lucas, can you update the poll? Lucas, give us the deets, dog.
No, I cut off Beavis.
Did you just cut off Beavis and Butthead?
Was that Beavis or Butthead that I cut off?
Are you asking me?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Did you ever watch that show? That almost predates all of us.
I did not watch that show. It was on. It just I didn't watch it.
Like I know who the characters are, and I know what Rhett's doing, but like I don't think I've ever actually seen an episode.
I know enough to know it's a very good impression.
Right.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. What is your favorite thing about the Titans schedule? Preston says favorite thing is home games on Thanksgiving and on Christmas Eve. Kenneth says the Broadway release video.
Damn, we didn't talk about the release video.
No.
The Broadway release video was better than the one they put out. Here's what I'll say, all right? This is the only thing I want to say about the release video. There is some executive somewhere, whether he's in marketing, whether he's in production, or he or she, whatever the case may be. There is some executive in the Titans building pissed because they spent all the time, effort, and energy to put together that beautifully produced thing at Roberts Western World. Star-studded. People from Nashville love it. It's hyper-local, but it has broader appeal. Just to get undone by Drunk Girls on Broadway because that went way more viral than the thing that they spent so much time on. The Titans organization is happy. I guarantee you there is some faceless executive in that building that is absolutely livid today that they got undone by 3 girls on Broadway with a TikTok mic.
I don't know. The Broadway one was hilarious.
Better.
It was very well done, but it was a spinoff on a viral TikTok video that had been done before.
Sure.
The one at Roberts Western World was so well done.
Yes.
And it took so much more effort and coordination.
Yes. And it lost to the TikTok video.
It was so good.
It is the story of media today.
So good.
All the effort that you put in it doesn't matter because the internet's going to beat you with, puppies and drunk girls.
What's your least favorite thing about the Titans schedule? Adam says playing the Red Stallions. Just VDOT says 12 p.m. kickoffs for the foreseeable future. Yeah, every game at Nissan, a nooner.
I do love noon games. But that's because, there's a lot more time to do everything else after.
Fair or foul? Neither the Colts nor Texans getting a primetime game. 82% say it's fair.
82%? I think it's less than 82%. If the NFL doesn't think they're going to be good football teams, then yeah, I don't blame them for putting them away. I just thought there might be at least one for each of the top 4 rookie quarterbacks.
What about the Packers getting 6? What is that? Who is the most marketable player on the Packers?
Doesn't matter. That's a fan base.
I know. The Packers are marketable in and of itself. But you got to put a player up. Is it Jordan Love? I guess you just throw Jordan Love up on promos.
What's the corner from Louisville's name?
You're going to put the corner from Louisville up there. Okay, whose name you don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
the Vols winning 9.5 games in 2023. 63% go over.
Jair Alexander. It's a really, really good corner in the NFL. He's marketable. Also, great eyes. Him and Traylon Burks.
Those are the polls.
That's the show. Do we feel like we had a good week? I feel like we did. Great work by the boys making it happen. Great job by you guys for keeping us entertained and keeping us with it. Thanks for hanging out. Steeplechase tomorrow. Hope to see a lot of you guys there in the morning. I'll be at Rookie Camp right after that. And get your tickets for the Install Live Show. Available right now at 1045thezone.com. Greg and I can't wait to hang out with you next Saturday. Have a great weekend in the meantime.